Anywhere you are surrounded by children, there are children that are or have been abused. 1 out of every 4 girls to 1 out of every 6 boys are being sexually abused before they turn 18. So it's our responsibility as adults to start talking about it, because if we're not comfortable talking about it, they aren't going to talk to you about it. I'm born and raised in Iceland. Pretty much had what looked like on the outside a pretty lovely childhood, but what was really going on at home was something that caused me a lot of suffering, because I grew up with emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. I never went to bed feeling safe in my house. My stepfather came into our lives when I was 2 years old, and the abuse went on until I got out of that house as a young adult. Because the abuse happened when I was so young, I didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't ask for help because I didn't even know what words to use, because it wasn't violence that was happening when I was being abused. He was being loving, he was being kind, he was being gentle. So it was very confusing for a little girl. And so for a long time growing up, probably by the time I was 6 or 7 years old, when I started putting things together and realizing what was happening to me at night, because nobody was talking about it, I thought it was my fault. I grew up very disconnected from who I was. I had very low self-esteem. I acted out in many ways. I was very promiscuous. I learned very young that my only value was my body and sex. I started smoking cigarettes when I was young. 12 years old, I was up to 2 packs a day by the time I was in college. And so growing up with a broken self-image into my adulthood, I really struggled. I was so disconnected from the truth and what had happened to me. I minimized it, I denied it. I told myself it was in the past, I don't need to deal with it, I'm fine. It wasn't until I came to the States to go to college, I was so far away from the person hurting me that my body finally started to break down. I started having like physical symptoms of trauma, like severe toxic stress. And just started to tell my friends a little bit about what had happened to me, because they were concerned about me. And I said, well, I'm not really sure, maybe this is why I'm having such a hard time. And I told them a little bit of what had happened to me as a kid, and most of them were like, you need to talk to someone. And I was like, really? You think it's that bad? And that's one of the ways I survived. I played Little Miss Perfect my whole childhood. I looked really good on the outside, but inside I was crippling, depressed, and scared. When I had my kids, it was difficult. I became super protective.
We definitely fought a lot. I'd say more in my middle school up into high school years. It was mostly just me rebelling against her control.
But once they were old enough, I started talking to them and explaining to them why I was being so protective. Having kids was the blessing, because it really pushed me to understand on a deeper level and motivated me to heal myself. I wasn't ready to do it for myself. I was more willing to do it for them. And then along the healing journey, I recognized I have to do it for me, because guess who they're looking to? Who is going to be their model for a healthy, happy, fulfilled adult? That was me.
When I was born, my mother had just started her healing journey. She wasn't healed. She had still had a long way to go. And so she struggled to connect with me emotionally and even physically. And because I didn't feel that initially coming into the world, I then picked up on her fear, embodied her fear, absorbed it, and had to then, like any survivor, pick up my own coping mechanisms to deal with the fear that I felt navigating the world. So the ripple effects for children of survivors are the passing down of fear and pain and hurt that if you as a parent haven't healed in yourself, that then gets passed on to your child.
So it wasn't until I started my healing that I recognized that the person hurting me was doing harm, and I also realized that harm had been done to him. The ripple effect is that hurt people, right? And because I was hurting, I was without my intention, I was hurting my children because I didn't know how to love them. because I didn't know how to love myself. But the more I have learned to love me and heal, the more compassion and love and empathy and presence I've been able to give my kids. And I do believe, because I've been willing to talk about all of that with them, we've made amends. And as a result of it, we have a much closer relationship today.
Our relationship now is as good as it could be. She's my closest friend in that both of us can hold a safe space for each other with no judgment and nothing but compassion, and really feel like equals, which has made such a big difference in my life.
It's scary when you're confronted with the possibility that you either have a child in front of you or an adult in front of you, or you suspect that there's something going on. It's important that you know how to respond to that child and who to turn to. Through the Stewards of Children training, we educate people about the statistics, we educate people about how it happens, and we empower adults with how to respond if they have a suspicion of abuse. I've taught stewards in 3 countries over 15 years. I call it hero training because people come in there a little skeptical, they're a little uncertain, but I say people leave an inch taller with their shoulders wider and both their eyes and their hearts wide open and so full of hope, because they can see there's actually something that they can do. Child sexual abuse is a big and complicated issue, but preventing child sexual abuse is not complicated.
It is possible to end the cycle of abuse. Within my own family, going back several generations, there have been repeated stories of abuse, but between the openness between my mother and I, and the willingness to heal and talk openly about child sexual abuse prevention, we've been able to end the cycle with my generation, with my siblings and I. And I just want to spread that message of hope to other people, that it's absolutely possible to end the cycles everywhere.
I know I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be this functional. I shouldn't be able to comfortably talk about this and to have a healthy, productive life. But I did, and I can. And it is because I found the tools to heal. And if I can do it, if this body can heal, we all can do it. I really want survivors to know they're not alone. Find someone that believes in you. Find someone that believes that you can heal. Someone did that for me. That's what I'm paying forward. I will believe in you until you believe in yourself, because you too, my friend, can and deserve to heal.